A massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for a big deep dive into the Gameweek 29 bench boost. Guys, if you are bench boosting this game week, you want to watch this video for sure because we're going to answer all of your final questions of the game week that will really help you structure the perfect double game week bench boost. It's going to be a good one, guys, so if you do enjoy this one, please do leave a like, please do subscribe if you're new around here. Without further ado, let's get cracking. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to show you the lay of the land. This is the FPL calendar for Game Week 29 up to 38, so the rest of the season. Obviously, we know we've got a nice big double Game Week 29, but when we are planning our transfers, when we're making moves for our Game Week 29 players who double, we also need to keep a keen eye on the players that, we have to keep. When we buy players, we're probably going to have to keep them for a long time. So it makes sense for them to be quite good players for the future as well. And this is where this kind of calendar comes in. So first of all, Game Week 32, a lot of the big teams doubling in 29, blank in 32. And, the players we're talking about the most are Brighton, Chelsea, and Manchester United. So particularly Manchester United and Brighton, I know a lot of people are looking to triple up on both of these teams. Be aware, if you are not free hitting in Game Week 32, by buying in all of these players, particularly Brighton players, who have bad fixtures against Spurs and Chelsea in 30 and 31, maybe you don't want to triple up on them. Maybe they are more trouble than they're worth. Manchester United, on the other hand, could repay the fact that you are buying them with Everton and Nottingham Forest in the following fixtures. So even if you have to take -4s and stuff like that to remove them in Game Week 32, I think that still could kind of pay off. But it's something, if you're not free hitting in Game Week 32, you need to be aware of. After that, unfortunately for non-free hitters, Brighton and Manchester United are straight back in with more double game weeks. So this is going to be another game week where you do want to be tripled up on Brighton and Manchester United, which may not be possible for everyone. But we have got Liverpool here as well, who are kind of interesting because they double in 29 and double in 34, but also have a really nice fixture against Nottingham Forest in 32 as well. So therefore, if you are not free hitting in 32, maybe some Liverpool players are actually better to go for than Brighton and Manchester United. Later on in the season, we have got another double game week for Brighton in both 36 and 37. So another huge reason to buy Brighton players if you are free hitting. And Manchester United, another double in 34, another double in 37. So again, these are the players you want. Free hitters in particular, you want Brighton and Manchester United. And, we're going to talk about taking hits, how many hits you want to be taking in order to get these players in. So maybe the first question you want to ask is it worth bench boosting this week, possibly? I mean, I think this is an important question. But the answer is absolutely yes. This is going to be the biggest double game week of the season. There is no chance we're going to get a bigger double game week from now. I mean, you can see, guys, from the calendar that this is the huge double game week. And really, what we want to do is create a situation where you don't need to be lucky to get a good return. And what I mean by that is if you've got double game week players on the bench, they don't need to do anything to repay your faith. If you get 4 double game week players, they're going to get you 16 points if they all score 2 points. That is really, really nice. So that's the kind of situation that we want to kind of orchestrate. In single game week players, you do need to be a little bit lucky to get those bench boosters to pay off a little bit more. With the double game weeks, you're kind of guaranteed to get like an okay score. And then if you're picking really good players, they're going to do even better than that. So if you get just 1 return in 8 games from 4 double game week bench players, that's going to get you 20 points, which is the bar for a successful bench boost. Even if you only have 6 fixtures on your bench, for example, so 3 double game week players and 1 single game week player, you'll only need to get 2 returns, and again, that's 20 points. If your bench is really good, you get some really nice bench players, and you maybe get like a 50% return rate, so every player returns once every other game, then suddenly we're getting 25 points or more on the bench boost, and this is an amazing bench boost. We can even push it up to 30 with just a 50% return rate, which is what we probably should hope for in FPL in general. We want to pick players who return on average every other game, so that's definitely very possible, and that would be a huge double game week, and there's not really going to be an opportunity for that where you can be kind of averagely successful and still get a phenomenal score. And what is so much more important, which I think is not spoken about a lot, is the fact that, we want our bench to have our weakest players. That's always how it works. Your bench has the weakest players. So really, you want a double game week where the weak players have double game weeks, not the strong players have double game weeks. So if you look at future game weeks, you've got Brighton and Manchester United and Man City and Liverpool with these kind of teams with double game weeks. Well, they're good players that you would be starting anyway. The bench players, the players who you wouldn't ordinarily play, or the weaker players in your team, those are the players who you are actually bench boosting, not the players who are in your starting 11. You're benching the bench. You're bench boosting the bench, which I know sounds very obvious, but I know people kind of forget that a lot of the time. So this game week is an example of a game week where the weaker teams, the cheaper players, I guess, have the double game weeks, which is what gives you the opportunity, which means the single game week players that you have, you're also going to be benching because they only have a single game week, but they're playing for good teams. Your single game week players have good fixtures, but individual fixtures, and your double game week players, they've got double the game week. So hopefully that makes sense. Your bench is going to look stronger than ever in this game week, kind of no matter who you are. And I don't disagree that you can possibly score more points on a bench boost in another game week, but I feel like you need to be a little bit luckier to get a lot of points on a bench boost in a different game week. And this one is just, you know, your best opportunity. All right, so a big question is, how many double game week players should you have to bench boost right now? What could be considered a good amount of double game week players? Well, I think 12 double game week players is enough for a bench boost. I think that is a really decent amount. I don't think you need to have every single one of your players with a double game week. I think 12 could be considered really good. I think if you're on 13, that is perfect. Any more than 13, then maybe you're actually sacrificing players that you want to have long term. So 13, I think, is ideal. If you can get to 13 double game week players, I think you're in a perfect situation for a bench boost. But what is more important is the quality of the single game week players. So it's not always about, oh, just how many double game week players do we want. Sometimes it's just like, who are the single game week players? Because if there's some really nice single game week players, you would probably want to bench boost them anyway, even on a single game week, because single game week players can do absolutely fine on a double game week. I think it's absolutely fine. So go for those decent single game week players. If you've got them already, I think that's absolutely going to be fine. But who are those players? Well, Harry Kane, Saka, Martinelli, and Ødegaard, I would say, are the 4 best single game week players for game week 29. And I think I would comfortably bench boost all of these players. If my bench contained just, you know, 3 double game week players and a double game week goalkeeper, for example, and those 3 players were 3 players you see on screen right now, I think that would be absolutely fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. I would possibly also include Arsenal and Spurs defenders, so Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Pedro Porro maybe. Those players are looking really good, even for a single game of players. I think they could score, you know, they could easily score 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, maybe even more. Particular likes of Kane and Saka, who have been in really good form recently. Maybe even Martinelli. If he gets a start in game week 29, he's going to do really well as well, because he's been in top quality form. So yeah, a lot of single game week players are actually very good and well worth bench boosting. Okay, another big question. How many hits should you take? I absolutely hate this question, but I'll try and answer it anyway. And what I would say in general is take as many hits as you need to get your bench boost right, especially if you can set your team up for the future. So we're not just talking about buying players in for right now. Remember, like I said earlier, you've got to keep these players as well. So if you're buying the likes of Manchester United and Brighton players and you're free hitting in game week 32, it's fine to take plenty of hits for Brighton and Manchester United players, because you are going to need to buy these players eventually anyway. You're going to want to be tripled up on Manchester United and Brighton, not just for game week 29, but for game week 34, for game week 37. So you may as well do it now. You're going to do these transfers anyway, so why not just take the hit for them, do it now, and get that extra double game week by going a little bit earlier. Even if it's going to take a -4, -8, I think a -12 is fine, particularly if you're free hitting in game week 32, because you can create a team that is really decent for the long term. Now, if you are not free hitting in 32, if you don't have a free hit, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And I think you have to be a little bit more careful on your hits. So just be aware of that. A lot of the players you might be hitting in, you might have to hit out later, and in that sense, it might not be worth it so much. And in that case, maybe I would stick with some of my Arsenal players, for example, and just bench boost those Arsenal players, keep them, put them on the bench, and just bench boost them as they are. Arsenal players are still good players to bench boost. Like, don't get it twisted. These are good players to bench boost still. These are players you would play ordinarily against Leeds at home, for sure. So why not bench boost them? So still worth a bench boost, but I wouldn't be taking as many hits if I didn't have a free hit. Alright, so if you're on a free hit in game week 32, I would say that the following players are definitely worth a hit. I think there's no problem with taking hits for each of these players. Rashford, Fernandes, Shaw, De Gea, McAllister, March, Mitoma, Estupinian, and Dunk. take as many hits as you want to get the triple up on Manchester United and the triple up on Brighton. That would be my advice to you, and that is something that I'm going to be doing myself. I'm looking at a -8 at a minimum, probably a -12 as well, but it's no problem because I'm getting the right players in for this game week who also set me up really nicely for future game weeks as well. A few players may be worth a hit as well. Steele, Martinez, Maddison, Trippier, Watkins, Havertz and Chilwell. I think these are really nice players for this game week and future game weeks as well that could be worth taking a hit for as well. If you don't have a free hit, I don't think there's any player who is definitely worth taking a hit for. Rashford, Fernandes, McAllister, March and Mitoma I would put in this category, but I would also add Salah to the kind of list of players who I think are really good to get. If you are not, like I say, if Liverpool are your friends, if you don't have a free hit, because they have a fixture in game week 31 and, well, in 32, sorry, and they have a double in 34. So it's absolutely fine to go for some Liverpool players. I think that could be quite nice. Get Salah in now, nice and early. I think it could be really, really good for you guys. But I would make sure that you do have a captain at least for game week 29. So even though we're talking so much about a bench boost, you still do need a captain. And we are going to be looking at Rashford, Fernandes, McAllister, March and Mitoma. These 5 players, even though they don't play in 32, they are real captain options for game week 29. So you do kind of want to have at least one of them to make sure you have got that captain, maybe even a couple of them. But I don't think the triple up on Manchester United and Brighton is as important if you don't have that free hit, and I would be more willing to play those Arsenal players and keep those Arsenal players so you don't have to keep taking hits to get these players in and out and in and out and in and out. Don't like it so much. A couple other players if you are not on a free hit, so Maddison, Trippier, Isak, maybe a bit of a risky one there, Watkins and Ings, another slightly risky player as well, but Ings has the benefit of having double game weeks now, double game weeks later, and also he doesn't blank in 32. So again, West Ham potentially your friends there, for the non-free hitters. So there we go. Those are the kind of players I'll be looking to take hits for. Again, it's not really a case of how many hits should you take. It's going to be very team dependent. It's more about what kind of players you can get in. And hopefully I've kind of outlined a little bit what kind of players I would be willing to take hits for. And you know, anyone outside of that, I think is much riskier and may not pay off as much. Okay, so goalkeepers is a big topic because we do know that both Ward and Sanchez are pretty much no-goes for game week 29. I'm sorry to tell you this, guys. But you do need to, if you're bench boosting right now and you have Ward or Sanchez or maybe even both, you are going to need to replace them. And for me, the best 3 goalkeepers for this game week are De Gea, Steele and Kepa. So if you can get a double up with 2 of these players, I think that's going to be very, very nice indeed. But there are other players that are well worth boosting as well. Pope, Raya, Iverson, nice cheap price for him. Martinez and Alisson, potentially there. A little bit expensive maybe, but still, these goalkeepers are also well worth bench boosting as well. So I'm sure, you know, there'll be other goalkeepers that some people have, like Melier maybe, Navas. Not so sure what other goalkeepers you guys have, but I would say that as long as your goalkeeper is a main starting goalkeeper, guaranteed and nailed for minutes, they are probably all worth bench boosting. That kind of criteria doesn't apply to everyone, as we know with Sanchez and Ward, but for those that it does, they are well worth bench boosting, the lot of them probably. But yeah, best keepers for me, De Gea, Steele and Kepa. If you're looking for that goalkeeper replacement, those are the kind of guys I'd be going for. Okay, guys, so some of you may have some problem players, and that may cause you issues for the bench boost, particularly if you can't easily remove them. So a bench boost is not going to be for every single person, and these are kind of the examples of the situations you might find yourself in that might signal that maybe a bench boost is not for you this game week. So if you've got a few players who are confirmed or very likely to be out, and I don't mean those little yellow warning symbols, the very, very plain, salty kind of Doritos of death. Those kind of Doritos, you don't need to worry about too much. International break injuries are often kind of overhyped a little bit, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of players come to full fitness and play twice in the double game week. Keep an eye on those press conferences. But what I'm talking about is players who are confirmed out, you know, players who we actually know are 100% out, or players who, you know, it's looking really unlikely to play. So for example, Erling Haaland, there's been a lot of news that's come out recently where it's looking incredibly likely he is going to be out for game week 29. So therefore, you either need to replace him or you need to kind of remove him entirely, or, you know, just like not bench boost, just put him on your bench and just not bench boost. We've got big rotation risk players. You know, I don't know who to put in this category. Maybe a lot of the Chelsea players, I guess. Maybe Reece James, Mudryk, if some of you guys have him, for example. There are some players who are big rotation risks, and you're probably only going to get one fixture out of them in a double game week anyway. I think that's going to cause a problem. And I think a lot of the single game week players who don't play for Arsenal and Spurs, if you've got a lot of them, I'm trying to think of some examples. The Wolves have a single game week, don't they? Maybe you've got like Kilman still in your team or someone like that. Yeah, these kind of players are not good for the bench boost. So if you can't easily replace all of these kind of players, I wouldn't be looking to bench boost. Now, even the bad players who have double game weeks, I still think are fine, which is why, you know, like Rico Henry, fine to bench boost. Enzo Fernandez for Chelsea, probably not going to get any attacking returns, probably going to score 4 or 5 points in the double game week. Still, absolutely fine to bench boost a player like that. But it really is just the single game week players who I'd be worried about, the rotation risk players I'd be worried about, and those players who are confirmed to be out. And if you've got too many of these players, and it's going to take you too much, particularly if you can't free hit in game week 32, you're going to have to take loads of hits, then maybe you just need to leave it and say, look, bench boost is not for me right now. I need to plan for it a little bit better. I need to think about the bench boost when I'm going to play it in the future and see if we can do something in a future game week. And I think in 34 and 37, particularly 37 maybe that's going to be the time for you to bench boost instead. Okay, finally, what should a bench boost actually look like? So I've got an example here of the typical bench boost is probably going to include 1 goalkeeper, 2 defenders, and 1 midfielder. This, you know, people will argue with me about this one and say, oh, I've got Kane on my bench. Let's be real, guys. Kane is going to outscore so many of the double game week players that he is a starting player even in a single game week. But this is probably a little bit what a bench boost will look like. So we'll have 1 goalkeeper, and he's going to have one of these kind of guys: Steele, De Gea, Kepa, Iverson, Pope, Raya, all very, very good goalkeepers for your bench. You're going to have 2 defenders, probably 2 of the following: Estupinian, Mings, Cher, Botman, Castagna, Emerson, Henry, maybe Zinchenko in there as well. So I'm not necessarily saying these exact players, but kind of players similar. So if you've got, I don't know, Dan Burn instead of like a Botman, like absolutely fine. If you've got Ricardo Pereira instead of Castagna, absolutely fine. If you've got Aguerd instead of Emerson, if you've got Pinnock instead of Henry, or me instead of Henry, that's absolutely fine as well. I think that would be a really, really good bench boost still. And you're going to have 1 midfielder in there, which kind of depends. Are you going to sell one of your Arsenal midfielders? Are you going to keep one of your Arsenal midfielders? If you can keep one, then you can have Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard against Leeds, pretty decent. If not, and you manage to get 5 double game week midfielders, I guess, then maybe you've got the likes of Maddison, Harrison, Gibbs-White, someone slightly cheaper like that on your bench as well. Possible. But if you've got a bench boost, you end up with a bench boost, even if it takes a hit or so, to get a bench boost that looks something like this with these kind of players in. Not these exact players, but these kind of players in. I think you're on for a really strong bench boost. I think you can expect 20 points at the minimum. I think you can get 25 points easily. And I think if you do get that, you can really consider yourself to have a successful bench boost. So that is what, in my opinion, a bench boost should look like, or a good bench boost should look like, in order to get an amount of points that is well worth your while playing that bench boost. So there you go. Alright guys, I think that wraps things up pretty nicely, and hopefully I've answered all of the big bench boost questions without going specifically into individual transfers, and just given some kind of overall kind of advice that maybe helps a lot of people. But if you do have any more questions, you feel that there's anything I didn't cover in this video, please do leave a comment. I will be able to reply to a lot of comments over the next day, so do make sure you drop a comment with your questions, and I'll try my best to answer them all for you. But yeah guys, like the video, subscribe, and a quick word from our sponsor before we finish the video. Before you go, a quick shout out to my mates over at Squarespace who have kindly sponsored this video. Squarespace is a powerful and beautiful online platform that you can use to easily create your own website. It's a great way to create an online community without needing any coding experience, and fully integrated extensions can help you with those annoying things like inventory management, bookkeeping, tax, and international shipping. Connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content, manage your members, and send email communications and leverage audience insights all in one easy-to-use platform. There's never been a better time to step up your side hustle. If this sounds like it's for you, then go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/FPL Mate to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.